All right, welcome back to part 2 of this 2-part series that looks at the last 2 tax plans that received 0 votes from the opposition party. In part 1, we looked at Trump's 2017 tax cuts, and in this one, we're going to look at the 1993 Deficit Reduction Act, which was championed by Bill Clinton. And it's worth noting that before Bill Clinton took office in January of 1993, America had been governed for 12 years by these 2 guys who were anything but fiscally responsible. And nothing outlines that better than this September 1985 article that talks about the United States crossing the $2 trillion in national debt mark. And at the bottom of that article, it says it took 189 years for the debt to reach $1 trillion in Reagan's first year and only 4 years to double to $2 trillion, all during the administration of a president who once promised to balance the budget. And yet less than 7 years later, before Election Day 1992, the national debt had doubled again to over $4 trillion. And that debt exploded under those 2 Republican presidents because, you guessed it, they cut taxes on the wealthiest Americans. The top marginal tax rate was 70% when Reagan entered office. He lowered it to 50% and then lowered it as low as 28%, despite the fact that in 1936 and beyond, for 40 years, we had a top marginal tax rate above 70%. But then when Bill Clinton in 1993 decided to bump it up to 39.6%, here's what Republican leader John Kasich predicted after the House Democrats passed it and it moved on to the Senate.
And maybe we can stop it in the United States Senate before it sends the economy over the cliff. If they do pass it in the Senate, I guess we'll be around to try to help them fix this thing come next year when the job-killing effects of this program begin to kick in.
And yes, it did pass in the Senate, but after a 49-49 vote with 0 Republicans voting for it, Al Gore himself had to come down and cast the deciding vote himself. But did it have those job-killing effects that John Kasich predicted? Can you say absolutely not? Bill Clinton actually set a record for best job creation by a president of all time, creating over 23 million jobs in his 8 years in office. And to put that 23.2 million jobs in perspective, you can take the 8-year total of Ronald Reagan's job creation of 15.9 million, the 4 years of George H.W. Bush at 2.6 million, and the 8 years of George W. Bush at 2.1 million, combine them all together, and you still come up 2.5 million jobs short, 20,690,000 versus 23,214,000. And I find it hysterical that Trump's 2017 tax cut promised jobs but didn't deliver. Meanwhile, Bill Clinton's 1993 promised deficit reduction but included the best job creation in history. But how did it do with that deficit reduction? Well, as you can see here, in 1993, Bill Clinton passed that tax cut, and over the next 8 years, the deficit went down every year until we ran 4 straight budget surpluses, the last budget surpluses we've ever passed. But what do you think the Republicans did when we passed that first budget surplus? That's right. Instead of paying down the national debt as the economy is roaring forward, they called for a $1 trillion tax cut. And when George W. Bush won a razor-thin election in the early 2000s, he and the Republicans passed 2 tax cuts that immediately turned those surpluses back into deficits and led us into the Great Recession. And all of this makes what happened today in Congress even more disgusting, because instead of embracing a tax plan like Bill Clinton's that led to record job growth and the first budget surpluses we've seen in 5 decades, we're instead returning to doubling down to this tax cut that didn't deliver jobs and didn't do anything for the American worker. Good luck.